Brian Stelter distances himself from a bogus, whipping media narrative at border after CNN pushed it all weekend media news today. Chris Cuomo's sexual harassment accuser says the CNN host hasn't changed since groping her. The View addresses their COVID testing fiasco, and sources say a female CNN producer exited Cuomo Prime Time after feeling threatened by the namesake anchor. CNN's left-wing media guru Brian Stelter offered a gentle scold of his industry allies for pushing the false narrative that Border Patrol agents were using whips on Haitian migrants in Del Rio. However, multiple CNN figures pushed the storyline last week. Stelter, who is known by his critics of being the media's janitor by shielding the profession from criticism, began reliable sources on Sunday by acknowledging initial reports were wrong. These viral photos of Border Patrol officials on horseback using horse reins to rein the horses. So these were described as whips by some in the media, some commentators on social media, Stelter said. This was a faulty media narrative involving the word whips that, it kind of seemed like the horse was out of the barn. It wasn't able to be reined back in.
While Stelter's sidekick Oliver Darcy admitted that some news organisations were a lot more careful than others, he offered a lukewarm defence of their media allies that the viral images looked like one thing and ended up being another thing when there was more reporting. But the whips narrative it took hold, and then, do you feel like some news outlets weren't scrutinising that narrative enough on day one or hour one, and that's what went wrong? Stelter asked. I think it's a case where something went viral on social media, Brian, and news organisations said, did we have that? And they probably should have looked a little more into the matter, talked to people on the ground before perhaps running with this, Darcy responded. Darcy went on to blame social media commentary for the origins of the widespread falsehood instead of major news organisations who ran with it. I think it's a good lesson to be more careful, but it's also good that reporters got to the truth. They got to the bottom of the story, and they accurately reflected that in the follow-up reports, Darcy said. Except CNN was one of the biggest purveyors in peddling the false narrative. Last Monday, Stelter's colleague Chris Cuomo invoked slavery while showing the image of a Border Patrol agent grabbing a Haitian migrant's shirt. To me, it does smack of a bygone era of slavery, Cuomo told his viewers with a dramatic pause. Aided by reports of people being beaten, whether with the riding crop or the reins, most likely. The photographer who took the photo later said he did not witness such violence. Republic. Henry Cuomo, DTX, an outspoken critic of the Biden administration's immigration policies, defended Border Patrol in a debate last week with CNN anchor Victor Blackwell, who accused the agents of using a rope or a lasso on the migrants. They don't carry whips and they do not carry lassos, Cuomo said. I think the picture you're talking about, at least the one I've seen, is the rein. The rein of the horses. And should those be used? Should those be used, even if it is a rein? Blackwell asked, later adding, you're creating a distinction between swinging a rein at someone versus a whip. I don't know, as we've heard from the White House that they make that distinction. Later on, Outfront anchor Erin Burnett said Vice President Kamala Harris used the word horrible to describe the video of Border Patrol agents on horseback confronting Haitian migrants with whips. Even President Joe Biden said agents in the photos would pay, and the White House called the images horrific. On Wednesday, CNN political analyst April Ryan pressed White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki on the Biden administration's handling of the Haitians. You talked about the condemnation of what the patrol agents with the reins or whip whatever with the intent to lash, to hurt people, to keep them away from the border, Ryan said. Is that practice gonna still be in place, the horses and the lashing? Even hours after Stelter announced the bogus narrative on Sunday, his colleague Jim Acosta failed to challenge the falsehood peddled by Representative Maxine Waters, DeKalb. During an interview with the lawmaker, Acosta seemed to back Waters' assertions, asking her if the Biden administration is doing enough to reform Homeland Security policies following the downright cruelty from the Trump administration.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe